Good morning, good morning, good afternoon. It's 12 midday. It's 12 midday, so it's technically afternoon. And this is the Marcia Week Show. And this is Marcia Weeks. And we're coming to you live in the middle of the day. All right, so we have something very, very important to talk to you about. And today we are giving you some more information on the CG, the Barbados CG to New York story. So there is that story that is, all over. And we have some more information on it. And I think it is important that we update you on what is happening because this is important for Barbados. This this has to do with the Barbados image. Okay, this has to do with the image of Barbados. Very important, and I think we need to get to the bottom of it. I would love to know that our officials are taking care of it because it is presenting us in a very, very bad light. So it is important that we get to the bottom of it. And I am waiting for Mr. Rickford Burke to come on. Let me see if he's gotten the link and if all is well with him as he makes his way on today. But I think it's important that we understand, was this story fabricated? Because there is a lot of that is going, going around in Barbados, and people are sending that out to say, oh, it's a fabricated story. The woman doesn't exist. The incident did not happen. Someone is making up this story. And so we need to be able to understand what exactly is happening. If you're watching me, I'm going to ask you to share the live because I'm not normally on at this time, but I thought that it was important. I know my subscribers will watch it later in the evening, but at the moment, if people could spend a little lunchtime with me would be great. So share it and come and ask your hard questions. Ask the hard questions. All right. So I'm just going to give you some time to share while I wait for Rickford to come on.
Yeah, I'm logging on right now.
You're logging on. Okay, I just heard from him. He's logging on right now.
You got the Attorney General's comments?
Yes, I'm holding. I'm looking at them. Give me a moment, right? But we'll come in, and we'll figure it out. So this is Mr. Burke, and he's coming in. Okay.
The Attorney General now.
Okay, guys. In the meantime, please share.
I came here to listen, but what I heard is very.
Yeah. Let's make sure that everybody's all connected up and we are ready to go and we're ready to share. I want you to pose the hard questions to Mr. Burke because I know that there is a lot of social media activity discrediting this gentleman and saying that the story was fabricated. Some people are meaning that essentially that it never happened, that it is a story that someone decided came out of the figment of someone's imagination. All right. So we want to get into that today to know whether was this something that was fabricated? Does a woman exist? And was there even a bus? And there are people who are wanting to know. Barbadians are wanting to know. Well, they don't understand. How could in this such serious economic times, Barbados could spend 75,000 to rent part of a bus? It according to the reports that's coming out of New York, if the reports are correct, and we're going to find out today, why would the Barbados spend 75,000? And is that US dollars? That's 150,000 Barbados dollars. or it's 75,000 Barbados dollars that was spent on a bus to rent half of a bus or part thereof, because my understanding that it was not the full bus. If it is so, so come with your hard questions. I know some of you were ready to attack me yesterday, but that's okay. You know, my job is to report on what is happening, right? And that's what I'm doing. So don't shoot the messenger, please. And even if you do, so what? So what? So Mr. Burke is here with me. He's right here in the studio. Okay, it's settling down. So divine greetings. Hi, Andrea. Andrea Critchlow, please share the live for us. I'm trying to get Rickford in. I can see his picture, but I'm not seeing him. But there he is. There he is. Say something, please.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. How are
Okay,
you?
so your audio. I'm not hearing you.
You're not hearing me?
Andrea, are you hearing Mr. Critchlow? Are you hearing Mr. Burke? Andrea, you're on. Are you hearing him? Check your audio, Rickford. Hi, Mr. Maximus. Good morning. Can you hear me? And can you hear Mr. Burke?
I'm hearing
Mr.
you
Burke.
clearly. Let me go in and come back.
Okay, okay. Are you hearing Andrea? Are you hearing Rickford? Rickford is going to go out and come back in. In the meantime, guys, here, we are all about seeking to get to truth, and that is really what it's all about on here. Okay, and could you hear the gentleman as well? Could you hear Rickford, Mr. Maximus Musk? Could you hear him as well? Let me know quickly, please. Thank you very much, guys. Oh, you heard both of us. Okay, so it could be on my part. Okay, so he's coming right back on. Let's see if we can hear him. Good morning, Mr. Burke.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Okay, so it could be me. So let me just do something here quickly. Okay, so they're hearing both of us. So obviously it has to be. Okay, Mr. Burke.
I can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. And I'm hearing you. I'm hearing you as well. Wonderful. So we've got all of that technical stuff out of the way. How are you doing?
I'm well. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's great to have you on the Marcia Week Show. You are the president of the CGID, and we're going to go into that later in the program. You are based in New York, and based on my research, you've done a lot of work in the community, the Caribbean community in New York. Can you, before you start, just give us a little summary of the kind of work you're involved in the general Caribbean community?
Well, thanks for having me. Good day to your listeners and your colleague. CGID is basically a an advocacy group, and a civil rights organization. What we do is advocate for the rights of Caribbean Americans and Guyanese. We provide legal representation for some of our Caribbean American folk who need it. We do immigration work. We take government officials, attorneys, um, judges, prosecutors, police officers throughout the Caribbean American community um, on a program which we call The Law and You, where you can resolve some small legal issues like warrants and etc. We advocate for the rights of people. Were very much involved in the petition, the advocacy for, and the announcement by the district attorney in Brooklyn, which is Kings County, um, to trigger a mechanism called for demotion for persons who are subject to deportation because of plea deals they would have made some time ago, which made them plead guilty to deportable offenses. And so the Kings County, after discussions in the community, including discussions with us, the district attorney made a decision, and all of the other district attorneys in Brooklyn made that decision as well, to have the court re-examine those plea deals to see whether there was adequate legal representation for those persons. And in cases where they found that the representation was not adequate, they reduced those convictions basically to non-deportable offenses, convictions like for violations or a misdemeanor or something like that. So hundreds of thousands of Caribbean immigrants have been benefiting from that. And that's part of our work. So we are advocates for the community. We're a civil rights group. And we also advocate for Caribbean nationals outside of New York: Jamaicans, Barbadians, Guyanese, Haitians, Antiguans, Africans. We're a very successful organization. We're a very influential organization, and our advocacy is potent.
Yes. Because I see. I mean, I've been doing some research, and I would have seen some of your work online.
It's not only me; it's the entire organization. So I don't want to take the praise alone.
Right. So you have Okay. So and how long have you been in operation, Mr. Burke?
Since 2006.
2006. And we, on behalf of the Caribbean community, having been a resident of New York for about 10 years, I'm so happy about what you're doing, because sometimes when you live in places like those, you kind of feel like there's nobody on your side. And so I'm just want to say thank you, sir, for the work that you and your team that you do for people of Caribbean descent. So,
thank you.
And I know, so with that background of advocacy that you do for Caribbean nationals in New York, in the U.S., and even outside of the U.S., can you now tell me how you got involved in this story, or this incident? Because we don't want to make light of it, and call it just a story, but it's an incident that is being alleged to have occurred on Labor Day, at the West Indian Day Parade. How did you get involved in that?
Well, I'm involved with the Carnival Association, which is the West Indian American Day Carnival Association, and I volunteer for them, like most of us, most of our community leaders do. And on the day in question, the largest band basically every year is Sesame Flyers, and I'm very familiar with them. The director is a friend of mine, and some of us who are community leaders, even some of the elected representatives, both black and non-black, we like to go into that band and jump up, play mass, So on the day in question, I was in the street, mingling with the people in the band and jumping up. I have a sprained ankle as a result of it. And and I was in the vicinity of this bus that Sesame Flyers had. It's a double-decker bus, a red double-decker bus, or purple, or whatever it is. It has some different colors, but it's a double-decker bus. And in the vicinity of the museum, which is where the Brooklyn Museum, which is on the Eastern Parkway, which is where the reviewing stand is, where the judges are. And then in the museum itself, on the ground floor, there's normally a VIP luncheon, where all the elected leaders and community leaders and Carnival Association officials are. And then we sit there and we look at the float spas and the masqueraders and the music trucks and so on. So in that vicinity, I actually, saw the bus, and I was talking to the people right outside the bus. And I saw, by the way, it's not a congresswoman, it's a New York State elected official. And I saw this animated conversation, just the end of it. I was not in the bus, I was outside on the street. But when she was coming out, and by the way, she's somebody I know very well. When she was coming out, she was crying. And she had her little daughter, whom everybody knows. She's with her daughter everywhere since she was a baby. And she had some other young ladies with her. So I was assigned at that time to the VIP entrance with police officers and some of my other colleagues. So after I saw that she was upset, I escorted her to the entrance to the VIP luncheon. And I asked the police officer, I said, this is one of our elected officials, and she has access. So I made sure she went in. But she was still upset, and I walked behind her, asked her if she was okay. And I knew something happened because I saw this kind of discussion animation in the bus. And she said, "I'll be okay." So once she said that, I knew something had happened. So one of my other colleagues came up and was greeting her, and she just burst into tears. And they had this girlfriend moment, and I just left them alone. And at some point in time, I intervened. I said, "What happened?" And she just wiped her eyes and said she'll be fine. But I insisted. But later on, they told me what happened. And I was really, really upset. And I said, "I wish you had said to me what happened right there and then. I would have gotten on the bus and I would have addressed it." And she told us what happened. And this is basically what she said. And what she said here, I want to make it very clear. What she said to us is what she said to the Barbadian ambassador to the United States in my presence. What she has said to...
hold up. So you're now telling us that there has been a discussion with
from the outset, let me say that their efforts to resolve this matter, which I support, their efforts at reconciliation at the moment, the matter should not have gotten this far. I know for sure that one of our community members, the very lady that the elected officials spoke to, with when she came off the bus, when I was standing right there, I didn't hear what she said, but that person who is from St. Lucia reached out immediately to the Consul General and asked him to address it, and he did not. And when I found out what happened, this young lady is a professional woman. She's not just some person in the community. She's an attorney at law. She's a professional woman, and she's an elected official. And she's not going to do something whimsical and just make up something like that. And so she was upset for that entire afternoon. She felt humiliated. She felt embarrassed. She felt they disrespected her. She was physically assaulted and verbally assaulted.
So can you go through?
Physical, yeah, I'll go through it.
Go through the account for us. And this account,
I'll say what she said. I'll say what she said.
Yeah.
And she hasn't said that to us. She said it to persons in the Barbadian government. When she, like all of us, marched down in the parade, it was 95 degrees. All of us were getting beverages from wherever we can. The trucks had beverages. People on the side of the road, some of us our friends had stuff. We had to be hydrated all the time. So once she, prior to that, so let me explain this. This bus wanted to be on the, Sesame Flyers wanted to have this bus on the parkway in the parade for a while. It was never allowed by the Carnival Association or city officials. But this year, this elected official advocated for the bus to be included in the parade. And the authorities agreed, Carnival Association agreed, they got the permit because of her advocacy. So once that approval was obtained, the Sesame Flyers called her and said, "Okay, thank you for your advocacy. We want you on the bus. Here are the bands for your people." And I think they give her 4 or 5 bands. So on the day of the parade, after she walked the length of the parade and jumped up, she was a masquerader, she had her costume and everything. She went back from by the museum to where the bus was, which is like probably 5 blocks. So when she got there, they were telling her she can't get on the bus. So she said, she told us that she informed them that she had the credentials to get on the bus. Everybody on her team, which is like 4 people, had the credentials to get on the bus. But in the rivalry, some of the bands came off or whatever it is. But they wouldn't let her on the bus. And she alleged that the two people who were standing in the doorway blocking her were a gentleman by the name of Mr. Corbin, who works for the Ministry of Culture of Barbados, and the Consul General. And the driver of the bus wouldn't let her on as well because, I guess, following instructions. So the director of Sesame Flyers was on the bus. He was upstairs. And he probably saw some sort of activity and looked out and saw she was outside and they were telling her that she couldn't kind of, but so he immediately ran downstairs and said, "Are you guys crazy? This is," and he identified her. He said, "This is an elected official. This is one of our leaders. She has permission to come on this bus. What are you guys doing? Let her on the bus." And they let her on the bus, and he took her and introduced her to the senior people on the bus, including the Barbadian Minister of Culture, the Consul General, and this Mr. Corbin, who is some sort of advisor, I understand, with the Ministry of Culture. The director of Sesame Flyers then exited the bus with her. She left her family, her daughter, who is 11 years old, and her three nieces. She left them on the bus, and the two of them went to another vehicle and got some beverages and brought them back on the bus for her family. The director of Sesame Flyers then left the bus. And subsequent to that, sometime after, remember, it's a slow parade, but it couldn't be long because they were just like 5 or 4 blocks from the stand where the judges were. At some point in time, her daughter said to her she was hungry, and the director of Sesame Flyers had informed her that there was refreshments on the bus, beverages, she could get that. So she went to the person providing the hospitality and said, "Could I get a plate of food for my daughter?" And the person said, "I can't give it to you. I've gotten instructions. You have to ask the people in charge." So she asked her, "Who's the people in charge? Who are the people in charge?" And she directed her to the Consul General. So she went to the Consul General, this is what she related to us, and asked if she can get a plate of food for her daughter. She was told no, that she wasn't even supposed to be on the bus.
So hold a minute, stick a pin there. So this is, according to her account, the Consul General would have been introduced to her earlier by the operator of the bus.
No, by the director of Sesame Flyers who hired the bus. So this bus did not belong to the Barbados Consulate. This bus belonged to Sesame Flyers. The bus had 85 seats. The Barbadian government, through the Ministry of Culture, sponsored part of the bus, and they were allotted 20 seats on the bus, 20 of 85 seats on the bus.
So 20 of the 85 seats would
20 of the 85 seats. So the entire bus was not theirs. They didn't control the bus. They were not in control of the bus. It was not their bus. And so they knew who she was. They knew she was a government official. She gave them her card. So she related further that an argument ensued about this plate of food for the daughter. This entire incident is about one single plate of food for a little girl. And they told her she was not entitled to food on the bus. One person told her, "Are you poor? You can't afford to buy some food for your daughter?" And that's when she said she got upset. Because I can tell you this woman goes throughout this community to feed people who are hungry, who are homeless. During COVID, she put her life on the line and she fed thousands of people in Brooklyn. So she felt that, this was insulting to her. And she turned to the Consul General. She said, "Do you really think I deserve this kind of embarrassment and insult over a plate of food for my daughter?" Then she said, somebody wanted to pass her. And the person pushed her. Her daughter was behind her, and her daughter fell.
Wow. How old is this little girl? How old is the little girl?
The girl is 11.
And
once the daughter fell,
pushed the official, and the official daughter fell?
The daughter was standing right behind the official. So once she was pushed into the daughter, and the daughter fell.
Oh my
So
goodness.
then she's like, okay, you push my daughter down and you're not going to say anything, and all of you sitting here, you're not going to say anything. You think this is appropriate? And then the person said, little girl, if I cause you to fall, I apologize. So then she said there was another person. They were still denying her the food. So there was a gentleman, she said, who was sitting close to the food, an elderly gentleman who looked very pleasant. So she decided to turn and walk towards him to ask him for the food for the girl. And some person who was sitting in the vicinity of the wife of the consul general hold her thigh. Remember, she has on a costume. Hold her thigh and blocked her from going towards where the food was. And that's why she told him that he just assaulted her and he must take his hand off of her leg. And then she said, again, she asked, of course, passions are flaring. I'm pretty sure there are arguments back and forth. She asked, don't you guys on this bus find what he did inappropriate? That he is touching my leg and I'm a woman. So at that point in time, she said she broke down, she started to cry, and she decided to come off the bus. That's when I saw her. Now, like I said, I don't want to point fingers at anybody. I'm just relating what the elected official told us, told me directly, told person from the Barbadian government, told US government officials. I believe her. People on the bus who are Bajans confided in me that that's exactly what happened. When my colleague from St. Lucia, a community leader, contacted the consul general and asked him to address it that very day, like an hour after it happened, he did not. When I found out about the physical assault, I went on social media and I said, Barbadian Consul General, address this matter. Persons from Barbados told me they saw the post and they sent it to him. Nothing happened. This is the very night, because we're all talking about it. This was the big talk of the whole carnival. The entire VIP area, lunch, everybody in the luncheon, we were talking about it. People who knew were talking about it, and people were upset. So the next day, after nobody contacted her to talk about it, some members of my organization approached me who heard and said, what's going on here? Maybe we should say something. So we had a quick conference call and we decided that we'll put out a statement. And that's how CGID got involved. Now, like I said, this issue spun out of control because people didn't take immediate action. And like I said earlier too, I believe her. I'm not blaming anybody for anything. When something like this happened, it should be addressed immediately. If if this was an ordinary person, and she had made a police report, that person would have been arrested. This is a woman. If it was any other woman, if it was a Barbadian official, if it was my sister, if it was you, Marcy, if it was anybody else, we would have done the same thing. And I want to tell women in Barbados, I see lots of social media comments. Step back from the emotions of this and consider what this woman has said. I've seen Barbadian women's advocates saying, you must believe the woman. You must believe the woman. What happened to that concept? What happened to the concept that women who were physically assaulted, women who face violence must be believed? And so without the emotions, without the impetuous reactions, let us step back. This woman's daughter was knocked down. She was physically assaulted. She was denied a plate of food, for God's sake. A plate of food at Carnival. We are better than that as Caribbeans, as people from the Caribbean. This is when we hold on at anybody, we whine on anybody, we jump up on anybody, we eat food from anybody, we drink with everybody, we take toast with everybody, we party with everybody. That's the Caribbean spirit. We are a hospitable people. We're not hostile. We share with people, whether we're St. Lucians, Guyanese, Antiguans, Skipticians, Bajans, Jamaicans, Trinidadians. We share, we live in love. And I felt it was very unfortunate that this incident happened over a plate of food for a hungry child.
Yeah.
Very unfortunate.
Yeah, someone has, there's some questions here. Thank you so much, Mr. Burke, for sharing that the incident as it was told to you, and as you said, as it was also told later on, told to other Barbadian officials within the Barbadian government. So thank you so much for that. And I want to just say, honestly, if what this woman is saying is what happened, I want to thank you and your organization for standing up for her, because I don't know what I would do if I am somewhere and somebody push me and let my child fall down. I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I'd be speaking English. I'd be gone into Jamaican right away. I don't know. So I and in situations like that, it's good to have people that are going to stand with you. And you're an advocacy group. And I think people need to understand that the role that you play. So you here to your understanding, based on what's reported to you and the little that you personally saw outside of the bus, made you, you made a decision that you have to stand up. You have to advocate on behalf of this woman that seemed to you, based on what's told to you, that she was being abused. Now, Mr. Maximus, thank you for joining. And Mr. Maximus is asking, did he speak to the Consul General after the incident occurred? This is what
I'm not a news reporter. I'm a community advocate. And my colleague spoke to the Consul General. And the Consul General denied that anything happened. He said he had no incident with the assemblywoman.
So someone called you right after the incident.
And let me say this. I have absolutely no obligation to speak to the Consul General or anybody. We spoke independently to verify what she said with people on the bus. We spoke with the director of Sesame Flyers. We spoke with 4 persons who were on the bus who verified what she said, including Barbadians. I'm not going to say anything else other than that, including Barbadians who verified what she said.
Okay,
as a community advocate,
yeah,
it was our responsibility then to advocate for a resolution, which is what we did. We didn't make up anything. We didn't embellish anything. We said exactly what she said, and I observed part of it. I didn't hear the exchange, but I observed part of it. I heard some people saying that she came on the bus and acted hostile. Now, you just imagine, this is a public official. She's at Carnival with her daughter and her nieces, and she would just jump on a bus and be hostile? It does not make sense. And so, again, I want to appeal to people. Let's all step back from the emotions and think about it. This is a woman, a mother, a public official, an officer of the law, an attorney at law, who says she was assaulted. Persons on the bus acknowledged she was touched. Persons on the bus heard her telling the guy, get your hands off of my thigh. Persons on the bus saw her daughter was knocked down. We don't have to be political supporters of anybody to invoke our sense of humanity to say this is wrong. We don't have to be political supporters of anybody, one side or another, to say something is wrong when a group of people in a carnival would deny a child a plate of food. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's right, who's wrong, who raised their voice or whatever. In the interest of the child at that point in time, it's 95 degrees weather. The child walked 1.5 miles with her mother. There's nothing wrong with giving her a plate of food. So I think we should appeal to our sense of humanity and understand what happened here. We are not calling the Consul General anything. We're not saying that he did anything. We are saying what was related to us by a woman who said she was assaulted, and there are witnesses who verify her story. That's all.
Yeah.
And so when we make an assessment, we have to assess it in this context.
Yeah. And you would have spoken to people on the bus, Barbadians who were there, etc.
Absolutely.
Mr. Maximum is saying, well, why didn't the incident, why wasn't it reported to the Carnival Committee?
Carnival Committee doesn't have any authority on personal interactions.
Okay. Okay, but you did say someone
And
from
by the
your
way, it was and by the way, it was reported to the Carnival Committee because the president of the Carnival or Association, sorry, the chairman of the Carnival Association was right there when she came off the bus.
Okay, do you think that Sonia is asking, and I was wondering, do you think the CG understood that he did not have, based on these allegations, do you think that the CG did not understand that he didn't control the bus, that he was only basically, what's that? That's about 30% of the bus that he was paying for? Did they realize that they were only paying for a fraction of the bus?
That's a question she should ask the CG. I don't know. I don't know what's in the CG's mind. I can say what the director of Sesame Flyers told me, which was they controlled 20 seats on the bus.
20 seats. And I want Barbadians to understand that Mr. Burke is now saying this is not what the elected official, the female elected official, told him, but that the owners of the bus, what they've said, that Barbados was only sponsoring 20 of the seats of the bus. And our understanding, I don't know if it's US or if it's Bajan, it's about $75,000 for these 20 seats. So it's interesting to I understand why Sonia will be asking this, because I'm wondering if he didn't realize that it was not. Of course, the behavior is wrong. If it, the alleged behavior is wrong, but he probably didn't know. I don't know. Let me just.
I'm not sure how that number came about. Somebody on the bus said that to her, that we paid $75,000 for this bus. Okay. I'm not sure if it's Guyana dollars, Bajan dollars, Trinidadian dollars, US dollars, or what. I don't know. I did not find out. That was something that was said to her, and I guess that could be easily clarified by asking the Consul General.
Yeah. Mr. Maximus is saying, thank you, Mr. Maximus, for your questions. To get a resolution, it is important to get both sides of the story. You had also said if you were a few minutes earlier, you would have intervened.
I never said that.
Yeah. So he's saying, but I think that in fairness to Mr. Burke, and this is what sometimes we don't understand, and sometimes we tend to want to accuse the messenger. But let me say to you something. You see, social media is very powerful. And while that colleague of Mr. Burke did not get the response that they needed to get from the authorities, the Barbados authorities, the post that CGID sent out via the social media blast, Facebook, WhatsApp, and however they got it out, that and Mr. Burke can correct me, but that caused a meeting to happen, at least an initial meeting, and then further meetings to happen. So sometimes.
Well, let me give some clarification. There was no meeting as yet. I understand the meeting is to come. We didn't ask the Barbadian government for a response. My colleague, she texted the Consul General. Sorry, she spoke and texted the Consul General directly, and asked him to resolve the matter, and he did not. So we did not, and the Barbadian officials have responded to this incident, and there's supposed to be a mediatory meeting. There's supposed to be a mediation at some point in time. I have been involved in some of those discussions, but not all of them. I don't want to be involved in them. We just felt the need to advocate for some sort of accountability for what happened to her. I consider her to be a friend of mine. She's like a sister. She's a big sister to everybody. Not a big sister to me, but this is like, she's like a sister. Everybody in the community knows her. She's been working in our community for decades. And she's now an elected official, and she deserves respect. Now, I felt that even if she got upset and she said something harshly, which possibly could be justified based on what she said she faced, she's a public official. You don't disrespect her. You say, okay, ma'am, you can have whatever it is you're asking for, but let's have a conversation tomorrow. Or pull her one side and say, here, can we go to the bus and have a talk? Whatever it is. I don't think it's appropriate to embarrass, insult, assault, verbally and physically, an elected official. And I want to say this. I have very good friends who are Bajans. I know a lot of people in the Barbadian government. And if anybody dare to do that to anybody I know in the Barbadian government, I would do the same thing. I do not tolerate violence against women or anybody. It's unacceptable. And to attack a public official in that manner that has been alleged is unacceptable. And vice versa. If someone that in our New York community had assaulted the Consul General, insulted the Consul General, embarrassed the Consul General, humiliated him, we would have done the exact same thing. It's inappropriate. It's inappropriate. I've had very, very good relations with a number of Barbadian Consuls General over the years. And I have advocated for Barbados and Barbadians over the years. We have been members of CGID who agree with our approach to this matter. So it shouldn't be personalized. It has to be what has been related to us. And we have to be consistent. We have to be consistent. We can't tell our daughters that they must be believed when they're assaulted. We can't tell our community that, or our authorities, they must believe women when they say they have been assaulted and they're victims of violence or rape or whatever it is. And then in this situation, because there's a difference in nationality, we doubt the woman. What are we doing? What message are we sending to our young women? What message are we sending to the community? What message are we sending to our children? We have to be consistent. It is fair to say, let's have both sides. That's fine. We're not an investigative agency. We're an advocacy agency. And so we advocated for accountability. Now that we have brought awareness to this matter, the appropriate agencies or organizations or government departments will now do their due diligence and investigate the matter and get the facts. But that's not our responsibility.
Nobody can fault you. As far as I'm concerned, as a female, I want to thank you for bringing it to the attention of the public, because I know of other situations, other allegations that have been made against officials. You know, there is one that there was an allegation that was being passed around about our CG in Miami, and that was very damning by another female about a child. And some of you on here would remember about it, and nothing, and it hurt my heart that nothing there was no investigation done. There was nothing, the media didn't go into it. Nobody looked into it. And so I am happy. I am happy for two things: that you advocated on behalf of this woman. And
Marcia, this is New York. This is New York. This is not Barbados. This is not Guyana. This is not St. Lucia. This is not Dominica. This is New York, where we hold people accountable. If RICKFORD BURKE commits some sort of violation of the law, I'm held accountable. It doesn't matter who it is. If a member of Congress violates the law, they're held accountable. This is New York. We hold people accountable. And we don't tolerate abuse of our women, especially our women leaders. We can't. It has to be addressed. And that's why we took the stand we did. And I'm happy that there's going to be mediation. I don't feel good that we criticized the Consul General or we said something that implicated the Consul General. The Consul General is part of the Caribbean community. We see the Caribbean as one Caribbean. But this is a woman who said she was assaulted. we have a right to advocate that there be accountability. If we don't, then we're not being true to ourselves and we're not being consistent.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
if tomorrow morning, a Barbadian official or a Barbadian national said that they were assaulted, that that person was assaulted by somebody in New York, what are we supposed to do? Ignore that? No. We have to advocate for accountability.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
We
mm-hmm.
have to say what she said and then
Yeah,
let the investigative agencies do their job. We can't sit back and say, no, we're not going to say nothing until we hear the other side. No. We have to advocate for justice. We have to advocate for accountability. It's just as if you call the police and say, this man hit me. The police is not supposed to determine what the law is and who's it. No, the police supposed to take the report. If the report represents a violation of the law, you get arrested. A
mm-hmm.
judge or a judge and jury then makes the decision based on the law, the facts, and the circumstances. But initially, the police arrest that person. That's the responsibility in society. We have to listen to people's complaints, advocate. In this case, the police and the district attorney, they're the advocates. And then the judge makes the decision. And
Yeah.
that's how it should be
Well,
with everybody
and
across the board.
CGID, who has been involved in advocacy for years, took up the case and have been successful at it, because I'm smiling because that elected public official now has the ear of the Barbados government, and that is what is necessary, because they were not listening before, and people need to
But
understand.
I'm not sure if they were not listening.
Mm.
I know that the Consul General did not take the appropriate action at the time this
Okay,
incident happened.
okay.
And some of us called on him to do it. And it could have been resolved very easily, very quietly, if he had taken the appropriate action. And again, it's very unfortunate. I want people to understand it. It's very unfortunate that this incident happened over a plate of food for a child. We don't do that. We're better than that. And I hope this is an object lesson. People learn from this. We cannot be inhumane to children, even a hungry person. It could be a millionaire. If someone asks a plate of food, I would not object.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm a Consul General, I don't want to be policing food or policing a bus.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me, though. That's me, Rickford. I don't have time for that. But
Yeah.
other people have their responsibility. I don't know what arrangement they had, but I know that this incident was over a plate of food. And I'm happy now that it's going to be resolved. People are talking. There's going to be some sort of mediation meeting, and that's good. That's good for Barbados. That's good for the elected official, and it's good for the Caribbean community.
Correct. Now, there are people, and I know what happens here, and I'm going to switch a little bit to speak to the Barbadian public a little bit. We are. You might not know Rickford, but we live in our political climate in Barbados. Our government is made up of everybody in the government from one party. Okay. And the Senate is the same way. The media is scared. The unions are scared. And so when something like this happens and somebody have the balls to, well, for you, it's what you do normally. But for us, it's like, wow, they have the balls to do something like this. People start to shoot the messenger, because there is this thing that you can't speak about the government. You can't do this and you can't do that. There's a fear of victimization, and they begin. I don't know why we get in our head that we can't criticize, or we can constructively say something that we don't like about what is going on, right? And so a lot of times what starts to happen is that they start to, instead of dealing with the issue, they start to deal with the messenger. So while we listen to this situation, we all understand, obviously we were not there, but we listen to it and we understand that if this thing actually happened the way that it happened, this man you see on the screen had the right to make it be known to the public. while we understand that he came in defense to the defense of a woman, we understand that. But because it's against our political party, what we tend to do now is start to shoot the messenger, dig up people's past, and they do it to me as well. So I very much understand that. So there is Mr. Burke, there is another messaging that is going on social media to try to
Oh,
say,
really?
yes, that the message that it's fake news. In fact, they had labels on your on the post that came out from your organization. They had labels of fake news on it, and it was being spread throughout Barbados. That so
Mhm.
people say, oh yeah, and then someone says, oh, that man, he has a case in court, and they call you a criminal, and lots of different names. Even right here on here, they're saying that people are saying, tell the people you can't go back to Guyana and so on. But I happen to have some. They said that you're wanted. You're a wanted
Well,
man. So
let me deal with that. I can go back to Guyana whenever I want, right? Um, the the government of Guyana is a racist ethnocracy that doesn't believe that black people have right to speak. And I have been a powerful advocate on behalf of Guyanese. And this despotic racist government has arrested every black talk show host in Guyana and targeted every black talk show host outside of Guyana. And because I advocate and condemn their racism, they asked the police to put out a wanted bulletin for me. I live in the United States. If I break the law, and I live in New York, NYPD would arrest me. If I break federal law, the federal government would arrest me, right? So the government feels that by using police instruments to attack us, we would be quiet.
mm,
What the government in Guyana is engaged in is what we call here transnational repression crimes. They're trying to repress us from speaking out. And that
mhm.
matter is under investigation by the FBI. You showed a photograph there with me and the district attorney, which is the chief prosecutor of Guyana. And as a matter of fact, they put out a wanted bulletin for me because I said people must resist racism in Guyana. They say, oh, that's a terroristic threat. And they put out this wanted bulletin. And the attorney general of New York responded. I'm not sure if you have her
Yeah,
response.
I'm going to try to get to that. But tell us
Right.
who is in this picture, because if you are wanted when was this picture taken?
2 days ago at the parade.
So this was taken at the parade. So, and
Right.
who you are
But
wanted?
honestly, before we get to that, let me say this. I think it's embarrassing for Barbadians to follow the narrative of an East Indian racist, which is Bar Jack Dale. He's the one that instructed the police to put out, he's the vice president of Guyana, and he thinks that he's a wannabe Hitler and a dictator. And well, I have said to the Guyana government, if you think that I did something wrong, come and get me. They wrote the United States government complaining every time we speak publicly, they write a letter to the US Embassy. They do not believe in black rights. They don't think black people have a rights. They have a war going on against black people and us in the diaspora who speak out. The Democratic leader in Congress has called on the government to stop being racist. 7 members of Congress have spoken out against the Guyana government. I will continue to speak out. They will have to kill me to stop me from speaking out. And that would be devastating for them because that's what they do. They kill people. Bar Jagdeo, when he was president of Guyana, his government formed a death squad that killed their opponents, that shot and killed people who spoke out on television like me. In the last elections, they shot and killed Courtney Cumming, who was speaking out against them, who conducted several pickets. That's what happened in Guyana to black people. And for Afro-Guyanese, black people in Barbados, to pick up this narrative that black people are criminals because we're speaking for our rights is disgraceful. They should be supporting our advocacy. This is not slavery anymore. All of the black people in the Caribbean should stand with the Afro-Guyanese because we have a racist government who came to power by electoral fraud, but because they had money to mobilize the Trump political supporters and lobbyists who lobbied CARICOM, who lobbied US government officials under the Trump administration, they got into power. So I am unconcerned about whether Barjabdeo called me a criminal. Every Thursday he was a press conference to call me a criminal. He said that I extort money from business people in Guyana. Now let me tell you what he's calling extortion. There's an East Indian man who owns a dealership in Guyana, a car dealership. And what they allegedly do is they prey on poor black people who are poor but want to have a car. So you will go and sign up for a car, and then they'll add all these fine prints, and the allegation is they will add pages to the contract of sale for these vehicles. And if you guarantee a car for your daughter, Marcy, they have some part of the contract that says if you had a car with them and your daughter fall behind, they seize your car and the daughter's car. And what we have said on social media is that's a scam. And they must pay back those people their money. They owe some businessman over $100 million Guyana dollars. And we were advocating for them to pay that man. And so persons in the government go and told the man to go to the police and say we're trying to extort him. And that's what Barjabdeo is calling extortion. If that's extortion, so be it. Stop ripping off black people. I live in America. That is called predatory lending. They're predators. They're preying on poor people. And because as Afro-Guyanese, we advocate for them to treat people fairly and stop scamming people, they're calling it extortion. Barjabdeo and his government and whoever in Barbados want to say, they can go to hell. I will continue to advocate for people who are vulnerable. How dare these people take advantage of poor black people and don't want advocates to speak up? So I will continue to speak out. Barjabdeo has no standing to call anybody a criminal. He calls every black leader in Guyana a criminal. Aubrey Norton, the opposition leader, is a criminal. David Patterson is a criminal, the former Minister of Public Infrastructure. Raphael Trotman, the former Minister of National Security, he calls a criminal. Barjabdeo is the biggest criminal in the Caribbean. Barjabdeo, a few months ago, was caught red-handed by Vice News in his house, negotiating, allegedly, a $500,000 US bribe. Vice News got wind that people in the government of Guyana negotiate bribes and kickbacks for investors in Guyana. And so what they did is they posed as Chinese business people. And they went to him. He didn't meet them at his house, sorry, at his office.
I saw that. I saw that clip.
He met them at his house. And then he had a middleman named Sue. He negotiated for Sue to collect the bribe. And they trapped him. And embedded in those reporters were federal agents. So who's the criminal? In addition to that, right now, Barjabdeo, the Vice President of Guyana, is a criminal defendant in a case before the Inter-American Human Rights Commission for murder, where he was accused of directing a death squad to kill somebody. And his government was condemned by the Bush administration for allegedly forming death squads that killed over 1,400 black people. Who's the criminal? Black people that advocate for justice or people committing the crimes? So Barbadians must get their facts straight. I will continue to advocate for black people in Guyana. I will not sit by and allow racists to run over black people in Guyana, take away our lands. Right now, members of the Congressional Black Caucus are dealing with a case where the government took away the land of a black businessman, a black Guyanese American businessman, and give it to one of our Barjabdeo's friends. The man was building a hotel. Oh, he took too long. He has the land. The former government gave him the land. When they came in, they took it back. We pressured them, they gave it back to him. Now they took it away again. They want to have black people under subjugation. They want us to be second-class citizens. Hell no, it's not happening. Our foreparents, black people, that slaves built Guyana. Slaves built Guyana. They came 200 years after. They're not going to displace us in Guyana. Not on my watch. I see you have the Attorney
Yeah.
General of New York there.
I want to, yeah, I want to play this clip from the Letitia James, New York Attorney General. Okay, so let me just play
And that's
this
that's the
clip here,
Attorney
guys.
General of New York responding to the wanted
I
bulletin
came
the
here
government
to
put out.
listen, but what I heard is
So the government, oh, okay, so your government put up a wanted bulletin for you, and as you're saying, because you are speaking out against what
Right,
you perceived, and you're alleging that it's a racist government, and
right.
and treating black people, and so now she is responding to that. Okay.
Correct.
very disturbing, extremely disturbing. And so my comments, I stand and reaffirm the comments of my brother, Congressmember Jeffries. The United States will not tolerate racism in Guyana or any other country. And I also want the officials to know that if any harm comes to Rickford Burke, let me say that again. If any harm comes to Rickford Burke or anyone on this dais or anyone in this room, there'll have to be answers. We will immediately demand answers. And I can tell you that someone will be held accountable for those actions. And for those who are in Guyana and for those officials who don't know me, my name is Letitia James, and and whether you're in the White House or the State House means nothing to me. I fear no one other than my God. And courage is a requirement of this position. Every elected official requires courage and requires having a steel in your backbone. And so I believe in democratic institutions, and I believe that Guyana needs strong democratic.
So there you have it. This is a New York Attorney General, who is and she is standing up on behalf of the work that Mr. Rickford Burke is and his organization that they are involved in New York for Caribbean people and for the people of Guyana, and dealing with what they perceive as a racist environment for Black Guyanese in Guyana. So I know, and I'm so glad that you put this, you sent us this this video, because I saw, this thing going around on
Well, see, that's
Barbados
fine.
WhatsApp.
I can deal with the detractors. It doesn't bother me one bit. I've never been arrested in my life. Barjagdeo has been arrested for corruption in Guyana when he came out of power. He was arrested by the organized crime unit. The current president of Guyana was arrested and charged with 19 fraud charges. The charges were never dismissed. The charges, he went to every court in Guyana, including the CCJ. And they demanded that he stand trial because there was sufficient evidence for the charges. What happened is that when he was declared president, the DPP, the Director of Public Prosecutions, dropped those charges because the president, according to the Constitution, cannot be charged. Now, currently, there's a convicted criminal sitting in the cabinet, convicted for assault and for some, I think, harassment, convicted in the cabinet. 5 members currently of the cabinet were arrested for fraud. One was arrested for over $500 million fraud. Another member of parliament from the ruling party was arrested for $670 million fraud. Another one was arrested for $300 million fraud. The current president of Guyana was arrested for a $200 and something million fraud. Who's the criminal? Who's the criminal? They're disrespectful to black people. They think because I have influence in Guyana and the United States, the only way to deal with they can't engage me intellectually. They can't engage me in terms of my advocacy. So what they do is use the Guyana police force to attack people, use police instruments like wanted bulletins to try to discredit people. Everybody laughed at that bulletin. Go on the bulletin when they put it out. Everybody, thousands of comments, just laughed at the Guyana police force. The United States government dismissed every one of their letters that they write. Every day they write letters. You know what they've done now? They have now hired, the government of Guyana are spending millions of dollars to hire a lobbyist to attack me. I'm a private citizen in America. It must be very important to the government that they're spending millions of dollars to hire lobbyists to attack me. But you know what? I have tough shoulders. I could stand up to them every time. The sad thing about it, though, is that Guyana is heading towards civil unrest because the government is taking away black lands. They've fired thousands of black people. Black people can't talk. Freedom of speech is under threat. Democracy is under threat. The government doesn't fund black villages, black towns, black regions. That's based on the Constitution. That's what they're supposed to do. Guyana is heading towards a civil war. And people in Barbados, instead of following the narrative of the government to attack black people who advocate for justice, should learn the issues and join the fight for justice. Now, we have a conference coming up in Washington. The theme of the conference is inclusive governance, and I want your audience to listen very carefully. The theme of the conference is promoting inclusive governance, promoting inclusive growth, which means everybody must benefit from the expansion of the economy, promoting social equity, promoting equal rights and justice, and promoting sustainable development for every Guyanese in an era of oil and gas. The government came out to oppose that. The government is saying we're opposed to black people being treated equally. We're opposed to black people being included in the government or benefiting from the resources of the government and the natural patrimony of the country. We're against equal rights and justice for black people, and we're against sustainable development for black people. That government should not be in power. The government should embrace, any normal government that's a democracy, should embrace inclusion, should embrace equality, should embrace social equity, should embrace oneness, should embrace sustainable development for all. There's not one black person with an oil and gas contract in Guyana. 90% of government contracts go to East Indian supporters of the government. What they're doing is transferring the wealth of the country through procurement fraud to the East Indian population. And they want us as black people to be quiet. We are 29 to 30% of the country. East Indians make up 39% of the country. The mixed race make up 20%. Amerindians make up 10%. And East Indians are getting 99% of the contract and the wealth of the country. Is unsustainable.
Let me ask you something. This conference, it says the Combined Guyanese Diaspora Organizations. You're presenting this conference September 27th to the 28th. And it's a Washington conference on Guyana. And I've seen articles online where your president is so against this conference. When, you know, why do you think he would be against it? It appears as though you're trying to, you're advocating for everybody. Is it there's something there that he's seeing that we're not seeing? Why would he be so, against the conference?
Be black. How dare you black people meet in Washington? We're the only ones supposed to speak. Listen, the United States government has not adequately responded or addressed the concerns that we have raised with regard to Guyana. Two secretaries of state have gone to Guyana. They've only met mainly with government officials. That is unacceptable. The country is fragmented. We don't even live together. We have Indian villages and black villages. The Amerindian community is separate. The Eastern community is separate. Black people are separate. If the United States government wants to be fair and understand what is happening, they have to meet with all sides, all the political parties. The government does not represent everybody. And it is an unacceptable policy for the United States government to go to Ghana and just meet with the government and say, well, okay, you're being accused of being racist. And the government says, oh, no, we got 4 black people in the cabinet and we got 4 black people on this board of that. That is unacceptable. To be in the ruling party, you got to strip yourself of black identity. I have a cousin who's in the cabinet. Not for one day as she advocates for fairness of black people. If she does that, she'll be out of the government. This government is so intrinsically, congenitally racist and anti-black. It is the most anti-black government in the Western Hemisphere. You cannot speak if you're black. Every single black talk show host has been arrested. If you protest, you get arrested. If you're against the government, they frame you like they try to frame. I live in America. People have submitted, police officers have submitted affidavits to the FBI attesting to the fact that people in the Guyana police force are trying to get people to lie to say I commit a crime. But they're so stupid. I live in America. Crimes are prosecuted in the jurisdiction where they allegedly committed. I haven't gone to Guyana for I left Guyana in 1992. I've been back 4 times. How could you say I am wanted? For what? If I commit a crime, NYPD would arrest me.
Yeah.
But they're not concerned about that. They're concerned with trying to discredit me, to portray me as a criminal because I'm a black leader. That's what they do to all black leaders. But in the meantime, them committing all the crime. And like I said, they have a convicted criminal in the cabinet.
Wow.
But I am not concerned because nobody in America take those wanted bulletins seriously.
Right.
And I am proud to stand up for the rights and human dignity of black people. If it takes a wanted bulletin being issued for me, so be it. I see it as a badge of honor. And Barbadians should see it as a badge of honor too, and stop talking nonsense, those who are talking nonsense, because if they go to Guyana, they would not be treated as equals. They don't like black people. When St. Vincent had the the volcano erupted there. The government refused to take Vincentians, but they run and take people from India. They're going to India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and bring people. They're rejecting Nigerians. They ban Haitians from coming to Guyana. They impose a visa requirement for Haitians. Why? They're black. But Cubans, welcome. Venezuelans, well, as a matter of fact, they've just budgeted $500 million. $500 million to assimilate Venezuelans in Guyana. They're sending them to school. The intent is to give them ID cards so they could vote. But we're watching very carefully.
And you're saying that they didn't do that to the black Vincentians who were
they refused to accept Haitians when they had the earthquake in Haiti. They refused the Haitians. Mm-hmm. They refused the Vincentians. As a matter of fact, when Haitians go to Guyana, they arrest them. Mm-hmm. We had to file, not we, but a group that I'm involved in, had to file habeas corpus writs in the High Court to produce 20-something Haitians. They claim that the Haitians are coming there as victims of human trafficking. What they don't want is Haitian black people to come to settle in Guyana to become citizens, because it would increase our numbers. The population is now evenly divided. They are a one-seat majority government. They are refusing Nigerian medical students from coming to Guyana to go to medical school. Why? They don't want black people to come to Guyana to get citizenship. That is what is happening in Guyana. And the rest of the Caribbean need to be aware so that when we have unrest, they understand the root.
But you know what I'm seeing, I realize that a lot of us, a lot of people in the Caribbean, and I talk about this often, that we want to turn a blind eye to what is happening in Guyana. Both, I mean, we're not, I'm not here trying to, pushing, black pride, black whatever in Guyana. I'm saying you talk about an unrest that could possibly happen, and it will affect all of us if that unrest happens. But somehow we are going about our way, and I see people on here saying, well, we're not interested in that. They just want to know about Barbados, or somebody says,
Well,
oh,
I'm interested in it. I'm Guyanese and I'm talking about it. So if they don't want to listen, let them come off the program.
yeah, but because I'm saying it's not, as Caribbean people, we need to be interested in this. This is our brothers and sisters, whether they are Indian or whether they're black. Guyana is a lovely place. And so our minds and our attention should be on Guyana. I remember when they were doing this whole Black Lives Matter, I was one of those who came out and said, but hold a minute, you are all screaming about what's happening in America and going and marching on the streets about what happened in America, but you didn't even look at what Guyanese are saying happening to them. Yeah, you're going to say, well, we're not in Guyana, we don't know if it is happening. The point is that they are saying it's happening to them. Why don't we investigate that? Why don't we carry a story on that? And I see the hypocrisy, and it's right. If it was happening with Indians over there, we should do the same thing. If Indians were saying that they were being victimized and the rest of the Caribbean doesn't turn an eye and look at that, that would be wrong as well. And I think that
let me give you another example of how guilty they are. The vice president, I guess in a few hours, he's going to be quoting a press conference to curse me out. 2 weeks ago, he held a press conference and he threatened United States Congress members. He said, anybody, and you don't care if it's Congress member or who goes to the conference, he's going to embarrass them and deal with them. He got oil money now, he think it's his. So he can threaten U.S. Congress members, which is a terroristic threat. It seems to me like blackmail. The FBI got involved. We spoke to the FBI. Now the District of Washington Police is involved. This is how irresponsible and reckless they are. He thinks that he can sit in Guyana and control what black people do in America. He is threatening elected officials in America who come to the conference to speak. And he's threatening the most senior Democrat, the highest ranking Democrat in the United States Congress. Why? Because he's black. If it was a white man, he would have been like, oh yeah, we love white people, right? No, but they're attacking the Congress members who are black. Now, they feel so guilty. The president is requesting to meet with every person we've invited to the conference. So the government of Guyana is now coming to Washington from the 13th to the 19th or something like that, to meet with the people in Washington to complain about our conference. We must be very influential. That entire government, the president would put aside his agenda for running the country to come to Washington to rebut what we have to say. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, someone's saying here, Sonia, that they wanted to get an update on that issue. Well, I don't know what time you came in, Sonia. I thought I saw you in earlier, but Mr. Burke did give a full update on it, on what happened with that particular issue, and that it is no, there are no meetings happening. Thank God for the advocacy of Mr. Burke, and coming out really firm on it, because what was reported was a denial by those involved when they were asked about it. But however, they responded to the very strong social media, the posts on social media. There's been a great response to that, and we thank God for that advocacy, because it might have gone under the rug, as did the one about the CG in Miami. Most of you don't even know about that. Nothing came of it. So we want to thank Mr. Rickford Burke for for the information, knowing that the possibility that our government might have spent $75,000, either US or Bajan, for 20 seats on an 86-seat bus. When we in Barbados, we can't buy chicken, we can't buy fish, a pound of dolphin or whatever. The last time I checked was about $13-14, which is about $7.50 US. So it's hard for us to understand, why so much money would be spent on 20 seats in a bus. And if we did not have this happening here, with the CGID putting this information out, we would not know that. And it's important that we know these things. Somebody sent me this morning, if I could just give me a moment, Mr. Burke, this is our Bajan issue here. Somebody said 75,000 either US or Barbados or a bus to party. The government sent a group of about 20 recycled artists and friends to the festival, the West Indian Day Parade. I'm sure they paid flights, accommodation, and per diem for those people, while the QAH, the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, is sending charitable organizations begging for an eye testing machine that costs $38,000. Truthfully, we could have bought 2 eye testing machine or 4 eye testing machine if it was US dollars with that money. 4 or 5 could be bought with that money. No, more 4 with that money. 4 eye testing machine. That is what Bajans need to think about. And if it wasn't for Rickford Burke and the CGID, really, we would not know all of that information that we could need to be asking our officials here in Barbados.
Well, Marcy, let me say this: that I am not privy to what number the cost of the sponsorship. What was repeated in the statement my colleague issues is what was told to the elected official. So I'm not sure what currency it was or if that was an accurate number. We don't know. We just included in that statement, my colleague included in the statement what the elected official related to the community as was told to her. And let me say this. This statement is not only from CGID. We are the instrument through which the community spoke. The entire community is behind what our advocacy. This is not a CGID thing. If you notice, not one single organization has contradicted what we said. Our community is united here in New York that there must be accountability if this incident happened, if what is alleged happened, it must be addressed. And like I said, the Consul General had an opportunity to address it immediately. He did not. I called on him to do it. That evening, he did not. Other persons asked him to address this, he did not. And I'm happy now that it's been addressed.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. And the conference that is coming up, which is for all Guyanese, from what I'm seeing here, September 27th.
Guyanese who are part of the combined diaspora organizations.
Okay, those who are part of the combined Guyanese diaspora organ. And when you say combined, you mean both Indians and Blacks?
Whoever, it's a group. A group of organizations came together and formed that organization. So once you're part of an organization that belongs to that group, then you're a delegate to that conference.
Okay. And so
we have people from every ethnicity that would be in the part of the conference.
Yes. I have some other pictures here that I want, just before we close, I want you to tell us who these people are that you are with, because I think it's important for people to understand that if you were so wanted, not America, boy, not America, I lived in America, and if you are
let me give you a joke about the wanted bulletin. When they issued the wanted bulletin for me, they used a photograph with me at the United Nations. Somebody said, the vice president called them and said, how are you going to issue that picture of the man? Then they got a distorted picture, which is the one that they distorted a picture of me. I'm a very good looking guy. I'm just joking. And they darkened it and they made my face look like a criminal, and they reissued the wanted bulletin, which was a joke. The entire country laughed at them. It's very foolish. It's very stupid. The real criminals, they're not going after, but in an effort to, I guess, try to destroy my image and tarnish my reputation. They want to use these wanted bulletins. It hasn't
Yeah.
affected me one bit. I'm a proud black man
So
who
well,
have
so
who
and
has absolutely no criminal history.
so
And go ahead, sorry.
so this is this is you here. The wanted man is in quotation is in black, Mr. Rickford Burke, and you're standing with who is this other gentleman here on your left?
That's the district attorney of Brooklyn, who's a very good friend of mine, and the district attorney is equivalent to the DPP, the director of public prosecutions in
So
Barbados.
you should be in jail right now if you would have been. And this was 2 days ago at the West Indian Day parade. Okay, and who
Exactly.
is this? And who is this person?
That's the police commissioner of New York.
This is the police commissioner of New York.
Yes.
You sure about that?
And
Let
these
me
are
see.
people who we work with every day. These are people who we work with every day. So I'm a leader in New York. So I know all of these people, from the senators to the governor to the attorney general. We work with these people every day.
Yes. And they haven't arrested you yet. And oh boy, you're here with some lovely ladies here. Who are these people?
They are all Caribbean American judges on the New York State Supreme Court.
So these are judges here. This
One
one
of whom is Bajan. One is whom is Bajan, actually. Justice Sylvia Hines Radix in the yellow pants there with the sash. She's from
Yes.
Barbados. And she's from the New York, the appellate court.
Oh wow.
Actually,
And
she's just stepped down, and she's now the corporate counsel for New York. So she's the chief lawyer for New York City.
wow, they have some great and here you have another attorney judge here.
All the others are judges. The one on the far left has Justice Janine Edwards. She's Guyanese. Justice Dana Douglas. She is from Grenada. And the one next to me, Justice Toussaint, she's from Trinidad. And the other one is Grenadian. So all Caribbean. We're all one. We're all one.
So with you should have been locked up on Labor Day parade, right? That um if that is so. So we
Like
want
I
to
said,
yeah.
the United States government responded to the government of Guyana, saying that I have a right to free speech and they cannot infringe on my free speech right. They wrote the United States government. They feel that I'm too influential. I have 8 million views a month on my social media, and they don't like that. So they're complaining every day to Instagram, to Facebook, to shut my page down. They're writing the U.S. government, and the U.S. government responded. The U.S. government threw their letter in the trash and told them I'm entitled to free speech. That's my right. Just like they're entitled to free speech, but they don't believe that Black people have a right to speak, and that's the problem.
Yeah. Well, I just want to thank you for your time and thank you for what you did for, first of all, in advocating for a woman, a Black
Thank
woman,
you.
and from the Caribbean. And I know living in the U.S. as a Caribbean person, sometimes you feel like you're not seen. And I thank you for that because now we have talks. And I'm not no as you can know, everybody knows I was in Barbados. I don't know what happened on the bus, but that he advocated for her because she said something happened. Because over the years, we know when women say something happened to them, a lot of times we don't believe. And so I'm happy that a man stood up for her. And now she's able to speak with the Barbados government, and they're seeking to come to some resolution. That's the update on it for those who wanted to know the update. And somebody still has a question. Yes, that is true, but he didn't indicate such. What is that? I don't know what is the question that Sonia wanted to ask. But I thank you. Thanks to those who came on and asked your questions. And go back over. Those of you who are late, you will need to go back and watch the beginning of it. All right. Thank you again, Mr. Burke. Thank you very
Thanks for
much.
having me, and good day to your listeners.
Yes, God bless you. And I just want to let everyone know that we are going to be on Friday evening at 7 o'clock. So this was just a special edition because we had such an important issue to deal with as it relates to Barbados. and how we are perceived internationally, and how in terms of this is our CG to New York, and we want to make sure that we gave you an update and for you to understand the full story and to know whether it was fake news or what. Okay, God bless you all and have a fantastic rest of the day, and see you tomorrow at 7. Bye.